Good morning. Oh my goodness. Sorry, that was super loud. It has been a long time since I've been on a live. Again, I feel like today was like a perfect day to go on. I realized I never finished the Proverbs reading. And I was like, which Proverbs did I leave off on? Which happened to be Proverbs 10. And now I'm like, wait, today's the 10th. It's perfect timing. So I just felt like maybe I just needed to wait till today to do the reading. But hello. Welcome in. My name is Vanessa. I was doing a lot of Bible reading lives for a long time. And I took a long break. And yeah, I wasn't sure with the whole TikTok thing if the TikTok, whatever they were going to do. I mean, it was like I felt like it was a whole commotion about what was going to happen with TikTok. So I was like, well, I didn't get a chance to finish everything, so I wanted to wait to see. Well, I mean, if it was meant to be, it was meant to be, you know. So now I'm like, okay, well, I made it on. And I'll be reading Proverbs. But yesterday kind of sparked me to come on and hello, good morning, everyone. I'm trying to look to the side. My microphone is like blocking all the comments. But yeah, I've missed coming on these lives. I love sharing just what I'm reading. And so I thought, oh, it's perfect. It's perfect timing. I was trying to wait for a night live, but those weren't working out very well. So I'm here on in the morning. So good morning. And some of you guys are probably in different states, so it's probably lunchtime for you. I'm in California. It's almost 11:30 here. So, but I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to read the first chapter, and then I think I'm going to read like 3 chapters. I think I'll stop. I might do 4 chapters. And then what I'm going to do is I will post. I normally go on for at least like an hour. And at most an hour. Because then I will save it and I will post the Proverbs individually on my TikTok. And then I'll post the lives just for fun on my YouTube. So both of those links are on my profile. But I'll go ahead and start. It's Proverbs chapter 10. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is a grief of his mother. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivers from death. The Lord will not allow the righteous soul to famish, but he casts away the desire of the wicked. He who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. He who gathers in summer is a wise son. He who sleeps in harvest is a son who causes shame. Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. The memory of the righteous is blessed, but the name of the wicked will rot. The wise in heart will receive commands, but a prating fool will fall. He who walks with integrity walks securely, but he who perverts his ways will become known. He who winks with the eye causes trouble, but a prating fool will fall. The mouth of the righteous is a well of life, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all sins. Wisdom is found on the lips of him who has understanding, but a rod is for the back of him who is devoid of understanding. Wise people store up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. The rich man's wealth is his strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. The labor of the righteous leads to life, the wages of the wicked to sin. He who keeps instruction is in the way of life, but he who refuses correction goes astray. Whoever hides hatred has lying lips, and whoever spreads slander is a fool. In the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The heart of the wicked is worth little. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for lack of wisdom. The blessing of the Lord makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. To do evil is like sport to a fool, but a man of understanding has wisdom. The fear of the wicked will come upon him, and the desire of the righteous will be granted. When the whirlwind passes by, the wicked is no more. But the righteous has an everlasting foundation. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is a lazy man to those who send him. The fear of the Lord prolongs days, but the years of the wicked will be shortened. The hope of the righteous will be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked will perish. The way of the Lord is strength for the upright, but destruction will come to the workers of iniquity. The righteous will never be removed, but the wicked will not inhabit the earth. The mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut out. The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked what is perverse. So that one, it's actually titled Wise Sayings of Solomon. So that one specifically, I think not all of them are told. I think we mostly attribute it to Solomon. Or to, let me go back. On my Bible, I have a study Bible, and it shows a little bit of the background and the history and the author. And so it says, Solomon, king of Israel, was the son of David and Bathsheba. He was about 20 when he took the throne, and he reigned for 40 years. About 3,000 proverbs and 1,005 songs are attributed to Solomon. That he authored most of the book of Proverbs is appropriate, since he was acclaimed the wisest person in his time. Nothing is known of Agur, to whom Proverbs 30 is ascribed, or of Lemuel, whose words are found in Proverbs 31. Solomon's strengths were not on the battlefield, but on the realm of the mind, meditation, organization, planning, and negotiation. Except for Moses, Solomon wrote more of the Old Testament than any other man. The writing of Song of Solomon is assigned to his youth, Proverbs to his mature years, when he was at the height of his power, and Ecclesiastes to his later years as he reflected on his life and experience. I like that. At my church, they went over the Song of Solomon, and so that was cool. That was like the youth, they said. I'm going to read some of the commentary that I have here. If you guys are looking for a Bible or trying to find something, I really like this Bible, which is the Nelson Study Bible. It's a women's study Bible, so they do kind of focus more on the women, on speaking to women, but it's really a really good tool to have, because it has a lot of different things that you can use, like commentaries or like a index. It has little like sayings here, like this one says wisdom personified, and it talks about wisdom. I actually might read that one, but it says for chapter 10 verse 1 through the end of Proverbs, it says the theological groundwork of Proverbs 1 through 9 is ended, and what remains is the purely practical. The emphasis in chapter 10 through 31 is the application of wisdom on how to fear the Lord in daily life, continuing with the theme of righteous wisdom and the wicked folly. Of the righteous they have wisdom, and then the wicked folly. These chapters contain short, contrasting proverbs emphasizing the radical difference between wise living of the righteous and the evil living of the wicked. In many cases, the second line of the verse begins with the word but. Oh, So like in the first one, it says, a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is a grief of the mother. So it's just a bunch of like little, almost like little couplets. I liked in 10 verse 12, it was a verse that I was thinking of yesterday or Saturday, and it says, love covers all sins. I think that's such a really powerful verse, and that kind of goes along with 1 Corinthians 13, which I forgot that it was in Proverbs. I was thinking of it in Corinthians, and so it just so happened, I was like, oh, I was just talking about that. We've been talking a lot about sins. We've been talking about grace, you know. Oh, maybe that was the verse I was talking about. I'm like, look, I don't see it right here. I think I have always maybe attributed it to 1 Corinthians 13 because it was about love. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how funny. For some reason, I thought it was, hi, long time no see, yes. How funny. For some reason, I always attributed to 1 Corinthians, but I've been misquoting. But I love that. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all sins. But there's another one, a multitude of sins. I'm thinking maybe I'll have to look that up, because I feel like that's another one too. There's another note here that talks about verse 1. It says, in this example of a contrasting Proverbs, the use of father in one line and mother in the other indicates that just as both parents are involved in teaching their children, both share in the joy and grief associated with parenting. And there's 4 more verses that they kind of focus on here. It says, for verse 11, the tongue is one of Solomon's favorite subjects. What is said and how it is said are good indicators and measures of wisdom. And for verse 19, it says, silence brings healing. Restrain his lips, literally keeps check on his tongue. Confirms that adage that the less said, the better. Rabbinic sayings also address silence. Silence is a healing for all ailments. Silence is good for the wise. How much more so for the foolish? Because verse 19 says, in the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. Silence is golden, yeah. Sometimes it's very necessary. We don't think about, sometimes we think, man, we have to have the right thing to say. We have to say it all the time. We have to have some sort of answer. Sorry, I feel like my phone is like super low. Or super tall. It's been a while, guys. I'm still getting used to the setup. Oh, thank you. You got the... Thank you guys for the likes. Oops, I forgot to turn off my notifications. Thank you so much. For verse 27, it says Proverbs are not necessarily promises or absolutes, but guidelines. Usually the righteous will live longer than the wicked because the lifestyle of the wise brings peace, security, and a lack of anxiety. These blessings of wisdom contribute to the wise person's health and longevity. So the idea is, if you trust God, you'll have that peace, you'll have that security and lack of anxiety. I think it's hard. It's hard to trust fully and 100%, but it is something that we are made to do. I'm learning a lot about trust. I think it's very important to. I think I saw this thing on. I think it was Instagram, where this person was like, "You trust the pilot you don't know. You trust the bus driver you don't know. You trust the doctor you don't know, and we look at a God that we have seen faithful and been proving faithful, and yet we don't trust him." And it was such a good reminder, because he gives us so many different opportunities to trust him, and he helps us when we lack that faith. I'll go ahead and continue. I'm going to read Proverbs chapter 11. Dishonest scales are abominations to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. When pride comes, then comes shame. But with the humble is wisdom. The integrity of the upright will guide them, but the perversity of the unfaithful will destroy them. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the blameless will direct his way aright, but the wicked will fall by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright will deliver them, but the unfaithful will be caught by their lust. When a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish, and the hope of the unjust perishes. The righteousness is delivered from trouble, and it comes to the wicked instead. The hypocrite with his mouth destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge the righteous will be delivered. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is jubilation. By the blessing of the upright the city is exalted, but is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked. He who is devoid of wisdom despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding holds his peace. A talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is of a faithful spirit conceals a matter. Where there is no counsel, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. He who is surety for a stranger will suffer, but one who hates being surety is secure. A gracious woman retains honor, but a ruthless man retain riches. The merciful man does good for his own soul, but he who is cruel troubles his own flesh. The wicked man does deceptive work, but he who sows in righteousness will have a sure reward. As righteousness leads to life, so he who pursues evil pursues it to his own death. Those who are of a perverse heart are abomination to the Lord, but the blameless in their ways are his delight. Though they join forces, the wicked will not go unpunished, but the posterity of the righteous will be delivered. As a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a lovely woman who lacks discretion. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. There is one who scatters yet increases more, and there is one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty. The generous soul will be made rich, and he who waters will also be watered himself. The people will curse him who withholds grain, but the blessing will be on the head of him who sells it. He who earnestly seeks good finds favor, but the trouble will come to him who seeks evil. He who trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like foliage. He who troubles his own house will inherit the wind, and the fool will be servant to the wise of heart. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise. If the righteous will be recompensed on the earth, how much more the ungodly and the sinner? Good morning, everyone. So sorry. I'm still getting used to the mic. I'm telling you, it's been a long time since I've been on these lives. This chapter, it seems like it's kind of linked with the last chapter. It's under wise sayings of Solomon. And this kind of just, it looks like it just continues to flow. Specifically, oh, it keeps going. It's not like titles. It's interesting about Proverbs. I feel like they go over a lot of different topics in like little groups. I think it gets broken up in chapter 24. So I'm like, that's weird, because sometimes in the Bible they have it separated, where oops, I pressed something. Sorry, guys. I'm not sure what I did. They'll put like little topics of what the chapter is about, but these seem to have so much in each chapter, so many different words of wisdom. For verse 2, there's a commentary here that says, self-centered pride brings disgrace to the person and dishonor to God. This theme is common in Proverbs. In contrast, the wise display humility. To be humble is to be submissive to God and to the authorities he places in your life. And so I'm going to read that verse again, 11:2. It says, when pride comes, then comes shame, but with the humble is wisdom. Humility is such a difficult thing to learn. It's something that I think we're going to continue to, learn more and more and more about as we live our lives. I was talking to somebody and we're talking about humiliation. And a lot of times, it's because we did something wrong, or, that sort of thing. We did something dumb. Like the other day, yesterday, I walked into the wrong restroom. It was really funny. I walked in, I was playing a game, so I wasn't really paying attention to where I was walking. Walked straight into the men's restroom, and I was like, this is funny looking toilets. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I'm in the wrong restroom. And I went out, and I went to the women's, and I thought, man, like, those distractions that get us. It was just like, I wasn't embarrassed, which I wasn't embarrassed because no one saw me. So I think I would have been more like embarrassed if they did. But it was just that idea, like humiliation, like it's such a heavy thing. And I think I've used that word this week too. And we were just talking about just things that are just embarrassing, things that happen to us that are just so embarrassing. But that's like a kind of a different humiliation. When you talk about as a humbling, you're humiliated, you're humbled, you're just, sometimes it takes that feeling of like, like I'm not up to this standard. I know my place, you're humbled. Humility is something that is very hard to obtain, and those that think that they've obtained it, they're not necessarily humble themselves. Because it's like, oh yeah, I'm humble. Like, just even that statement itself, it's like, how can you be humble if you just said you're humble? Like, it's such a hard thing. And humility, being humble, sometimes I have always thought like, oh, well, like I have to think bad about myself, I have to think low about myself. But really, it's thinking highly of God, knowing where we stand in God's standard. I'm like, this is where I'm at, this is where my walk is, this is where this is me. And then you have God, and we're always striving to be more like God and more like Christ, and have the heart that he has, and to love like he does. But it can take time, and it takes a lot of bad experiences. It takes a lot of sharpening. It takes a lot of experience with people that are going to shape you in a way where, like, if I didn't go through that experience, I probably wouldn't be the same person, kind of thing. So the testing of our faith, that refining, we have to have that conflict with people. We're going to have the conflict with people because we're not all the same. We're all very different. We have different gifts. We have different callings. We have different ways that the Lord has put, paths that have been put on our lives. So it's important that we are around different kinds of people. We can't be around the same group of Christians all the time, or you need to surround yourself with people that are not like you, still believe the same thing. We still have the same God, we have the same core values, but maybe they can give you a different perspective on witnessing. They can give you a different perspective on love. I think love is a big one. We talked yesterday. We were talking about like fire and brimstone. I come from a generation where like my parents were taught fire and brimstone. You don't do this, you're going to hell. And God becomes this very authoritative, unloving judge. Yes, he is a judge, and he does judge us. But I think sometimes we may even look at that and I'm like, oh man, like he's never going to forgive me for my sins. He's never going to use me in the magnitude that he is. And so there has to be a balance in who we see God is. Because if we see God as very legalistic, very overbearing, very judgmental, we're not going to do anything. We're going to get stuck in rules and regulations and laws. But if we see God as a loving, inclusive God, we're going to see as tolerating sins. So we need to find that balance and really know who God is, because we need both. We need the spiritual. We need the a lot of the the gifts of the Spirit. We need that sort of side, but we also need order. We were talking about prophecy and people that have word of knowledge. Hi, how are you? People that have word of wisdom, the kind of like prophetic gifts, that there's a sense of order. There's a way to do things. We were talking about someone that happens to do it during services, and we have to have space for that. We have to have space to allow people to use those gifts, but we also have to do it in a way that is pleasing to God, and it's not distracting. It's not self-focused, because then a person who has gifts of knowledge and wisdom speaking into people's lives, they can take it on in a very prideful way and think, well, what I have to say is more important than what the pastor has to say. And God is speaking to both of them. There has to be balance, and there has to be order. There has to be timing. We have to have the opportunity to do that. But like during the service, like I was sharing with them, like, yeah, that would make sense. Like, wow, like the Spirit is moving. The Spirit has something to say. We don't get to tell the Spirit, what to do, but also why would he disrupt his own, teachings? Why would, where I'm doing a study and they're talking about how Jesus did miracles and they called him Beelzebub. And he's like, well, how can Satan, cast out Satan, kind of thing, so God wouldn't do the same. The kingdom divided, you don't want to, it's not going to stand. So I was letting them know, like, well, there's different ways that you can do it. If you have something for a specific person, you can always take them aside. If you I don't think, we have to look at the early church, and really see what the Lord has. He does so many amazing things. And the only time that I can remember Jesus is interrupting something is the money changers. I don't remember him. I could be wrong. I gotta look a little bit more. I don't remember him ever like interrupting like a service. He did it very orderly. When he spoke and he read in Isaiah, it wasn't like he was like, I need to read, like I'm here, so now I need to do this. It's there's order. There is a sense of, what is most beneficial for the church. Not that an individual is not most important, but yeah, we kind of were just going over that, and it reminded me of the note here. There's another note here that talks about verse 13, and it says, the mouth is a destroyer of people and places. One of the most terrible forms of destruction by the mouth is gossip. The divulging of a secret by a talebearer, literally one who goes about in slander, is a betrayal of trust. Gossip, I always have a hard time with gossip. In this verse it said, a talebearer reveals secret, but he who is of a faithful spirit conceals a matter. And I think sometimes we get frustrated, sometimes we share things about people, and it may be exaggerated, it may be something we shouldn't have shared, but we need to look at it from multiple sides, multiple perspectives. When people are sharing their complaints, it's not like, there's two sides to every story. So we don't want to spread lies about people. We don't want to spread false information. And we don't want to slander. It gets really hard because sometimes we get angry at people and we're just like, man, like, why does this person do this all the time? I think there's a time where we share, and then there's a time where we're just like, there's a malicious intent. There's this sense of, I want you to be on my side, so I'm going to tell you this. And that's where it becomes very, very, it comes to discord. We want to come alongside. And I love that because it goes along with that, but love covers all sins. We want to come alongside people who are struggling in, let's say, gossip and slandering other people. We need to share with them a different perspective. We can't, we get so emotional and we get so caught up in, man, like this person does this or this person gets away with this, and the Lord sees all. Whatever struggle we have with another person, like the Lord sees. It's not a secret to God. And I was reading, I think it was Matthew. I think Matthew 12. No, it was Matthew 11. It was a verse that talked about like the secret. Matthew 10. Oh, another 10. I like that. It's a lot of 10s. Proverbs 10, Matthew 10, and then today's the 10th. 10:26 it says, therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be known. And that is an important message, because we can be so frustrated, so mad, so, just have this sense of wrath for justice, because evil happens all the time, and evil is never stopping. We want truth, and we want everything to go according to God's plan. And then there are people who are just not of the same mind, and they cause problems, or they cause issues. And the idea that, or there's secret things, and we're like, man, like, how can this keep happening? How can we not, like, we need to deal with this. It can't be just overlooked. And the Lord will bring it to light. God sees everything. It may not be in our timing. It may not be in our timing that we see that justice. We see that God steps in. But He's going to step in. He's not going to let all this go by. He may allow it. He may give time for repentance. He may give chances to people. But it will not just be swept under the rug. He is a faithful God. Like, he is there by our side, sticking with us. I love, like, what is it, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, in Psalm 23. Because sometimes it feels like that. It feels like we're just going through this terrible, terrible valley of loss, of anger, of grief. And like, you feel forsaken. You feel like God didn't see you. God didn't see what they did. God didn't do anything about it. God let it happen. But you don't know what God's going to do after that. You don't know what happens to that person who hurts. Like, I love, I think is it Deuteronomy? Curses, when they talk about cursing, I will bless those who bless you. He's talking about Israel. And I will curse those who curse you. And though that's for Israel, I do feel like the Lord has that same thought process in our lives. It may not be instant, it may be an eternity. It may be that this person will not repent. This person will not, be sorry, and they will have to deal with judgment. So to have that peace and to have that trust that God is going to intervene, He will reveal, especially if it has to do with the church, and if it has to do with His flock, His sheep. Why is He going to allow a wolf to come in and eat His sheep? Like, He is the shepherd, the good shepherd. And John, and let me read that. I was doing a study on the I ams, and in John, the 7 I am statements in John. And I never finished this study. I wrote a whole bunch of them down. I got to, like, I think bread of life, and I was there for a long time, and I was like, okay, you're just my sustainer right now. But in John, John 10, another 10, guys. I love this. That's so crazy. 10 is my number for today, I guess. John 10, verse 11. Oops, I put 10. Actually, I'm going to read 10. Or I'm going to read John 10:10. It says, "The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. And verse 11 says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives life for his sheep, for the sheep. But a hireling, he who is not the shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf catches the sheep and scatters them. The hireling flees because he is a hireling and does not care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and am known by my own. As the Father knows me, even so the Father and I lay down my life for the sheep. And the other sheep I have which are not in this fold, them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice. And there will be one flock and one shepherd. Ooh, that is really good. And I feel like that was something that was really good. We are the other sheep, by the way. I don't know if you guys know. We're the Gentiles, and we become one, which I think is amazing. I was doing my study last week, and I was talking a lot about. It was just one question. It wasn't talking. It's just what spoke to me. It was just this idea of adoption. You know, God adopts us into His family. And I love that. We just become one. You know, if you don't recognize that value, salvation can be a little bit like muddy for you. And you're like, well, okay, I'm a part of God's family. It's like, no, like you get to go to eternity with Him. Like you are saved. You are protected. This is not your home, and you will live forever. I want to read one more chapter really quick. I have a couple more minutes. Proverbs chapter 12. Whoever loves instruction loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid. A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but a man of wicked intentions he will condemn. A man is not established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous cannot be moved. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. The thought of the righteous are right, but the counsel of the wicked are deceitful. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright will deliver them. The wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. A man will be commended according to his wisdom, but he who is of a perverse heart will be despised. Better is the one who is slighted but has a servant than he who honors himself but lacks bread. A righteous man regards the life of his animal, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. He who tills his land will be satisfied with bread, but he who follows frivolity is devoid of understanding. The wicked covet the catch of evil men, but the root of the righteous yields fruit. The wicked is ensnared by the transgression of his lips, but the righteous will come through trouble. A man will be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hands will be rendered to him. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who heeds counsel is wise. A fool's wrath is known at once, but a prudent man covers shame. He who speaks truth declares righteousness, but a false witness deceit. There is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise promotes health. The truthful lip shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Deceit is in the heart of those who devise evil, but counselors of peace have joy. No grave trouble will overtake the righteous, but the wicked shall be filled with evil. Lying lips are abomination to the Lord, but those who deal truthfully are his delight. A prudent man conceals knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaim foolishness. The hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. The righteous should choose his friends carefully, for the way of the wicked leads them astray. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is man's precious possession. in the way of righteousness is life, and in its pathway there is no death. There's a few notes here. For verses 12 through 15, it says, words as deeds bear fruit. Words can bring satisfaction when they are wise, or disaster when they're unwise. Wicked words will trap a man or woman. And it says, I love the verse 15 where it says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who heeds counsel is wise. We have to remember that we have to also take on we have to listen to counsel. We have to be open to growing and open to correction, open to be transformed. Because if not, then we become fools. And you're just going to stay in your own stagnant water and not grow, and His Spirit is not going to flow through you because you're stuck in your own ways and you think you're right, and you think that you have to do this on your own. You think that you're going to be on this this island, and you get to decide what's right and wrong. And in the end, God can't use you. You know, God can't use someone who's not willing to change, who's not willing to grow. Verses 17 through 22 says, words heal or hurt. Piercings contain the notion of the quick thrustings of the sword. Is a fitting picture of for the verb speak, in Hebrew batah, literally speak rashly or unadvisedly. Once spoken, words cannot be taken back. Jesus said that each man and woman will be accountable for every careless spoken word. If Jesus was so concerned about careless words, what would he think of rash words, which are that thrust like a sword? The contrast in this verse is shown in the wonderful healing power of the words of the wise. And I always have a hard time with this. I'm really bad at telling jokes or teasing, and I have to be very careful because I feel like that's what has happened before. Like, my words will cut. My words will, you want to speak life into people. You don't want to cut them. You don't want to slay them. You don't want to thrust it like a sword. And the Lord always has to teach me, and I'm always humbled when I realize, I need to be very careful what I say, because what I say has value, has power. What we all say has so much power. You can speak life into people who are just hanging by a thread, or you can cut that thread and completely kill their spirits. For verse 25, it says, good words help someone want to be a better person, even when life is tough. God tells us to cast all our cares on Him and not to be anxious. Yet how uplifting it is in the midst of a trial to hear a word of encouragement. Encouragement stirs up, provokes, incites people in a given direction. And it's so true. I've been encouraged a lot the last couple days. And it's important to have that and have people in those life. And then, it's still, people can joke and stuff, but I have to be very careful because I'm just not good at joking, guys. I'm not good at joking, so I tried to be very aware of that and mindful, because I think when we have certain purposes in our life... Oh, thank you! That was so cute! Thank you for the gifter badge. Heart me. I think it was a heart me. Oh, that was cool. I think sometimes we can look in our lives and think like, oh, I'm just joking, that doesn't bother them, but we don't know. Thank you for the crystal rose. That's so cute. That's pretty. I love roses. Sometimes we can say things to people and think like, they just got tough skin. Oh, they can just deal with it, like, I'm just joking. But we don't know what people go through in their daily lives. And sometimes we can say the wrong things and say some very hurtful things without knowing, because we're just joking. It's not like we're going on this hunt for this person, but we hit those little things that trigger all that pain and all that hurt and all that those old memories or those problems that are just so heavy on their hearts. So we have to be very mindful. At least personally, I have to be very mindful, because I've said things that I'm like, oh man, I wish I didn't say that. I wish I could take it back. And you can't take it back. What is said is said. You can apologize, but man, you can't take it back. And I hate that feeling. Like, I hate feeling like, wow. Of course, there can be forgiveness, there can be restoration, but those words are out there. And so we have to be very careful. We have to know what's in our hearts, because out of the heart, the mouth speaks. I think I said that right. What's in our hearts is going to come out. I don't think I said that verse right, but what's in our hearts is going to manifest through what we say, what we talk about, and we want to make sure we have a clean heart. We want the Lord to come in our lives and to refine us and create such a joy. He wants us to be a joy to be around. I met this lady yesterday, and she was just so excited and so aware of Jesus' love and what he's done. And she has these encounters with him. She reaches out to him. She reads his word. She prays, and the Lord speaks. You know, we have to remember that when we're praying, the Lord is going to speak. He speaks to us, whether it's through his word, through a person, audibly. Like, I've heard so many different things. But he speaks. He's a real God. He's real. And we have to be very aware of that, because if I love the saying, like, God's not dead. He's surely alive. Like, I think it's like a song. And it's so true. We forget. Or like, we put him in this kind of like fairy tale, like, oh yeah, I think he's there. I think I've heard of him. I think he's he's like this far off being, but he's like right there with us. He's in the midst. He's next to us, especially through our trials, especially through the brokenness in our lives. He's right there with us, and he's walking alongside us. And sometimes he's the one carrying us through, you know. Either we're walking hand in hand, or he's carrying us, or he's dragging us along, you know. But either way, he is the peace in our lives, and we have to be very aware of that, because then our eyes get fixated, or not fixated on the problem anymore, but they're now fixated on him and the problem solver. So I hope you guys have a blessed day. I will be posting these on my TikTok and on my YouTube. It's on my my profile page if you want to look for it and want to see the whole live. I just do the full live. Like, there's no cuts or anything, but when I post the Proverbs, they'll be individual and it'll just be the chapters. So I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you soon.